whole conversation around defunding the police, like, this is why. Like, this is what it means to defund police departments, is to pour some of those resources into communities. Because the truth is, like, we're already paying for this stuff. Like, why should our kids have to pay to go to the park district? Because we're already paying for the park district. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I don't understand. Like, what are my taxes covering? And so, but those are the types of things that, like, where's the free stuff? Or where's the stuff that comes along with our tax? What are our taxes paying for besides for schools to damage our children? Like, what else what are we paying for? So I don't know.
And so, no. So Cessily, redirecting resources, making sure families have access to the resources they are entitled for. Also, prioritizing those resources, because it's the other thing. It's like, they say wherever you put your money is what you think is important. And if we think Black and brown kids and families are important, we would put resources into things. And instead, we put resources for Black and brown kids, particularly like in juvenile justice or the criminal justice system. We don't put them in prevention, recreation, fun, skill building, resiliency building. So, because we clearly don't think that that's important.
Absolutely.
Janelle, what were you going to say? I know you were about to pipe in.
Yeah, I was just going to piggyback off of both Regina and Cessily. I understand your frustration, because I have that as well. I am resourceful. I do ask questions like you do, Rita, because I want my children to have the best opportunities for everything that's available. I want to know what programs are offered, but I know that a lot of families feel like they can't do that. They feel like they're not going to be heard, for one. They're going to be told no. They're going to be pushed aside, or they're going to be looked down upon. And I've experienced all of that with asking for assistance and help. And it's not easy. It's not easy to come up out of that and say, hey, look, I've got 3 kids. These programs are costing way too much money for our kids. Why can't we have some kind of discount? Why can't we do X, Y, and Z? And the answers that I normally get are, well, it's not in the budget, and there's only so much we can do. And there comes a point as a mom where you get real hacked off at the fact that you keep getting told, no, I'm sorry, we don't have any programs for you. But little Billy over here can go ahead and sign up for all the programs and get all of the other stuff that they don't tell us about, but they'll tell them about. So we're missing out, but they get to have the scholarships and that kind of stuff. I think if we as a collective came together and learned about what programs are offered, learned how to approach these people who are putting on these programs to get the resources that we need without being told no or having the door shut on us.
Yep. That sounds like a great plan. I love it. Like a little,
I want to do it. I want to get
the cheat list.
I want to get as many people.
Yeah. And I tell allies all the time, if they wanted to do, allies always want to know how to help. And one of the ways that they can help is tell us what they know about the code, right? Because so many systems have back doors or rules or workaround. And I was like, all the rules. Like, if you shared that knowledge, that gives us equity. So if you could transfer the code to us, like, that would be the real ally. Like, if you want to be an ally, don't necessarily just show up with me at a march. Like, tell me how to get that resource, or what the words that I need to say to get that job, or make the connections, or pass my name on to somebody, because that's the system.
Yeah.
Regina, before we went live, you mentioned that one of the other things around economic challenges you were experiencing was that you had done some surveys with families and were noticing some things, and I wondered if now would be a nice time to bring that up.
Sure. So what I was sharing with you is that we're doing a parent survey throughout Champaign County for any parent, and we're going to be doing a giveaway. So if you sign up, please do put your name in the hat. But in any event, what we've discovered at this point is one trend that I'm seeing is that parents who are professionals, right? Meaning that they maybe have a degree or work in a professional type of setting or whatever the case may be, are also reporting the fact that they have food insecurities, which just blew my mind. I never would have crossed my mind that. And the other thing is that there are parents who are really concerned about their childcare, opportunities for their kids while one kid is here, one kid is there, or they're at work and kids are at home. Because you and I both know, as Black and brown people, we are quick to get indicated through DCFS if we are not having appropriate oversight, or you weren't there for this and little Johnny did that, or whatever the case may be. So this is a very looming issue that could really come to fruition if families don't have adequate child care. And then somebody says, oh yeah, we saw little Johnny doing this, that, and another, let's call the people. And now you dealing with the stress of COVID, the stress of working, the stress of being at home and trying to manage all that. And then you have an organization that is not family friendly, that does not hold families at their best interests at all times in your life. And so I can see this becoming a major, major issue. And the other thing that I noticed also was that a lot of the parents are really concerned about their ability to actually help their child with their work. They're concerned about their academic, mental, and emotional health as well. So all of that to me is connected to funds and monies. But this goes back to what I was saying about the schools as well. We cannot be so dependent on schools. I feel like we as family members, even though my children are grown, but families, I think we depend way too much on them. Like I was saying, before school care, after school care. Oh, let's make sure that they get their teeth checked. Let's get their eyes checked. Let's put counseling in the school. I'm not saying that those things are not good, but you can't depend on them. And one of the other points I wanted to make is about resources. If we don't know anything else from COVID, what do we know? We know that they can do whatever they want to do. They can change it. They can put money where they want to put it. They can spend it how it needs to be spent. We learned from COVID-19 that all of the rules don't always apply. You can eradicate the rules and just come up with something totally different, sending people checks, getting people extra money in their unemployment. So if you can do those things, why aren't we doing those things, right? To make sure that families are healthy, strong, safe, supported, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oof. So anybody else aware of those things, or have experienced families, or have anything else to say or add to that? Like, has anyone else experienced families who, again, at least on paper, look okay, but are vulnerable, or also on the other end, seen more vulnerabilities in families who are already vulnerable?
I think that the middle class is always very vulnerable. I guess we consider ourselves middle class, like just enough not to qualify for any assistance ever. And so like that is a struggle. I think even thinking about what Miss Regina was talking about like childcare, like my daycare closed. I don't know when it's gonna open, and we're just here. I don't know what I'm gonna be doing for work next year or this coming school year. I don't know. I know my kids are gonna be home, but I don't know where I'm gonna be. And if my kids are at home and I'm charged to teach someone else's kid, whether I'm at home or in a building, like how does that happen? Like, does anybody care about how that happens? You know what I mean? And so I definitely understand how those families who probably don't qualify for assistance, how this time can be super, super challenging. Because I'm telling you, this grocery bill, baby.
Yes.
Like, what? How do you eat so much? Like, what is going on? I was lucky once because my son, he goes to school that gets free and reduced lunch. So I was like, come on, give me that pandemic link, please. So that was a blessing. And so I'm hoping that, we can continue that. But if not, then it's a struggle. It's like, what are we eating? Chicken again. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
No, that's keeping it real, right?
Yeah.
Cessily, just declare a 12-hour fast every day and have one meal a day, and then you can cut your meal down.
Okay.
Oh, we fasting
Like,
this morning. The Lord said, right, and we fasting.
He called us to a fast until COVID is over.
Exactly. Right.
Until COVID to
God, right?
Absolutely.
So I want to.
Well, as a parent who does receive assistance, even that is a struggle, because
Absolutely.
now having my kids home for 3 meals a day versus 1, and not only do they want those 3 meals, they want 3 snacks. Like, it's tough. And so again, on the resources that are there. So being that I have children that are still under 5, I went and signed back up for WIC, because I'm like, that'll take away from the milk, the eggs, the bread, the cereal, the fruit, and I can go to farmers market. So really taking advantage of some of those resources, and finding that if I have an additional need, using the food pantries that are here locally that don't really ask questions as it relates to how much money do you make.
Right.
And you know, as an employee at the university and striving and continuing to climb the ladders to get myself into a better position, finding that when I get a pay increase, well, now they're going to cut me somewhere else, or now they're going to increase my rent, or I mean, so it's still, while you know the pay increase does help, it's not, it kind of balances itself back out.
Absolutely.
And so it keeps me in that space where I'm still struggling to make sure that my family sustains. But it could be worse. And that's one of the things that I live by with my family. Somebody does have it worse, somebody has it better, but for us, it could be worse.
So, Janelle, were you going to say something? Because I guess I want to make sure you all, like the audience, hears a theme that I really want to punctuate, that for people who are creating programs and services and supports, that particularly when we're talking about trying to create equitable practices for Black and Brown families, that even folks who might present in the middle class, to like be thinking about the policies that you create. So when you create a food bank or a food pantry, sometimes, right, there's so much judgment and so many assumptions around who needs it or who's eligible, that it could be in unexpected places. And for Black and Brown families that don't have sometimes families they can borrow from, or lots of extra credit, or they weren't able to go get an extra loan, or any of those things to sort of do that, that if you're thinking about kind of what we might need more, and from people who you wouldn't think would need them more, but we might need additional supports, and to not judge us, or, you know, or to, and also the other thing I want to say, and this is a Karen, being somebody who might need support, who is, you know, gone Christian Health Clinic and all those places, as somebody who is also providing service, or an advocate or a leader, creates this other level of, right, stigma or but to know, like, when I'm taking care of my mom, my daughter, like, and working and making just enough to get by, anything that happened in my family made me vulnerable in ways, and then I could sometimes be in a line with somebody who was also providing service too. And people need to pay attention to the fact that we're wearing multiple hats come with multiple pressures, particularly as Black women in this community, that I don't think most people are aware of.
And Karen, you said something before we started recording about something about a cold and the flu. What was the quote again?
So they say, when the world catches the cold, the Black people catch the flu.
Absolutely. That's so good. And it doesn't discriminate between, like, it doesn't care if you're a middle class Black, if you are a Black living in poverty, or if you're an upper class Black. When you look at, like, the numbers, like in education, I'm sorry for going back there, but just for 1 second, like, if you look at the numbers, like, rich or poor white kids are still testing at higher rates than rich Black kids. So, like, it doesn't, like, money doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, people like to talk about class when they don't want to talk about racism, but when it comes down to it, like, if you're Black then, or brown, like, it's gonna affect you, and it doesn't matter your class or whatever. Like,
Right.
Who doesn't?
So I'm looking at the time, and I know we could clearly have kept this conversation going longer, but I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about what is it that you would want a larger audience to see about, first of all, what do you want them to know about Black families that get or notions that are misguided, or so, like, what would you like them to know about our strengths, our resiliency, And then I will also sort of ask you to make an ask. Like if you were gonna speak to the community around like what are some needs that you feel like people should attend to. And that could be around school, around community or whatever. So again, what do you wanna say about strengths? Like that you feel like sometimes people miss or don't see, and then we'll talk about ask.
Well, so my 2 cents worth on all of this is I want people to know that when Black families have access to the right resources, tools, support, we can solve our own problems. It may not look like how you would solve your problem, but we have the capacity, the ability, the creativity to solve our own problems. We don't need anybody else to come in here and tell us what to do, right? And so I think it's imperative for folks to understand that a lot of the issue is access, being able to get what we need to do what we need to do best for our family. So in a just blanket statement, give us what we need. Give families what they need so that they can make the choices for their family. That's best for their family, not what looks good because that's what you did in your family.
So, yeah, that right there, all of that, and
we're all like,
and extra, like, amen. So for me, I'm just going to be a little bit more gruff and say to the people out there, if I could, stop it. Stop putting us in boxes. Stop thinking that we can't do what we can do because we don't do it your way. Open up the doors, pour in those resources that you know we need. And it is not our job to educate you. We don't need a high five because we're so strong. What we need is time, attention, money, resources, community. That is what we need. That is what should be given to us. And it's not because we're entitled to it. It is what is owed. We have not had it since the beginning of time. And it needs to stop. They need to stop with the foolishness. And we need to come together as a community and stand up for that. Make our voices heard. And like we're doing right now. I mean, this is, what did they say about the man on the moon? One small step for mankind.
Okay.
Yeah. That this is our small step, but it's about to be a major wave because I think a lot of Black folks and a lot of brown folks are waking the hell up. It is time for us to start doing what we need to do and pushing back and, demanding that we are treated fairly, period. We deserve it. Our children deserve it. Our future generations deserve that.
And I'm looking at Rita and Cessily's face, so you both, okay.
And so I'm sitting here and I was just thinking, I would tell white counterparts to just for a moment, put a blindfold on and imagine the day in the life of a Black person. You will never understand it. And especially as a Black female, it's already hard enough being Black, but then when you say woman, and you tie to some of the roles that gender has identified that we are supposed to take on, we wear many hats daily. From the time that I wake up to the time that I go to sleep, I am busy. And that's not just a matter because I have children, because again, we work as a team. So when I can't do it, somebody else steps in without a problem, because this is how I've raised my children, with the expectation of we will work together as a team. So I would just say, just for a moment, put your shoes in someone else's and imagine what their life is on a daily. And as a Black and brown, if you recognize and realize that we're already marginalized, then be empathetic in that we don't want a handout. We just want the same opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that one of the things that I always say, and I don't know, some people might not agree with this, but I get to say it because I want to.
Because you can.
And that is that, I seriously believe that God is a Black woman, because who else can make something out of nothing? Nobody but Black women. So, it's cool. Like, people don't agree, but I'm a preacher too, so that was my revelation. But I definitely believe that God is a Black woman. And so, like Miss Regina said, like, we can solve our own stuff. Like,
Sure.
give us what is due to us because we are human, right?
Period.
Not because we are good or because we're bad or, you know, because we need it, because we're human. Like the base, like we're people, period. And so, like Miss Regina said, just give us what we need. Are we doing our ask? Because I have one of those too.
Oh, yes. That was the segue. That was the perfect transition. Yes.
I can wait.
No. That was the perfect. Yeah. What's the ask?
Okay, so my ask is specifically for, because I know that I'm looking at my stuff right here, so I know that I have some coworkers watching this. So let me.
She's like, I'm gonna get like, oh.
Okay, so I think maybe it was in the message that you sent where you talked about like the conversation around Black people being like talking about the deficits of Black people. And so I like to say that Black people don't have a deficit. And so my ask is for white people to really sit down and think about their privilege and how they are using it. And if the way they are using it is helping I'm talking to teachers now, if they're helping your Black students or if it's hurting your Black students. Because one of the things that I've always noticed is that I've never had a white student, and I've been teaching for 15 years, say, she treats me different than she treats the other Black kids or the Black kids, or, you know, she treats me differently. Like that's never happened. So my ask is for white teachers to really sit and think for a second, like, what am I doing? Like, what is it that is in me that is hindering this Black person from being all that they can be in my class? And so like, that's my ask. Because the problem is not with the student. The problem is with the person who is in charge of the classroom. And so really just sit right there and really just think about that, because you either believe that Black people are dumb, or you really believe that all children can learn. And so like,
Those two things can't coexist. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's either one or the other. So sit down, make a little Venn diagram, whatever you need to do, figure that out. That's my ask.
All right, that's a great. All right, we got one ask that, right, like, think about your worldview. Okay.
Can I go next?
Yes.
I have two, so just let you know. First of all, I'm a firm believer that when we have the opportunity to enter people's lives, whether it's from a teaching perspective or at the university or the activism work, it's an honor. It's a privilege to hear someone's story, to hear where they come from and what they've done. And one of the things I would like, and I think that as Black people, I think we approach every story and situation in a way of humility, to seek to understand that person and their story. Because have you ever been talking to somebody and they're telling you their story? You're like, yeah, there's some pieces missing. We're going to figure it out because it doesn't quite make sense. Because why? Game recognized game, game peak game. So I get it, right? So what I would ask my white allies to do is do what we do. Sit at people's feet. Listen and seek to understand. Not say anything, but observe and listen. And the only way you can do that is in humility. And I think the most humble place that you can be is to sit at someone's feet. Okay. My second ask would be to have agencies, organizations, programs who are serving families with thousands and millions of dollars in Champaign County need to have representatives on their boards, their panels, their advisory committees, from the schools, any of them, with people who are accessing the services, that they come to the table, they have a seat at the table, they have a voice at the table, and that their voice is taken seriously as to what the need is. There is nothing more frustrating than for someone to put together a program and it all looks so good. You have all of these professional people, and Karen, that even includes all of us on here. We're professionals, we're activists, but when people call us to the table, they're not calling us to the table as parents per se, they're calling us to the table as professionals. So you need to have representation of the people who are actually accessing these services, and for them to say, yes, this isn't working. This does work. No, this does not. Let's stop putting money there because this is not helpful. You need to have real people at the table helping to design and make policies, criterias for access. I think it would just change the whole landscape of what's happening here. So you got some people who may be considered, you know, not as financially stable or whatever. Bring them to the table, right? Bring them to the table. But a lot of times the people that are sitting on these boards are people who ain't never struggled or haven't struggled in a long time, right? Making decisions about where this money goes, how it's used, based upon how well somebody wrote something. And if we don't know nothing else, you can write a grant and do nothing in that grant and still spend money.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Janelle, Rita.
Yeah, I loved everything that both Cessily and Regina said. I agree with what Regina said is seek to understand. One of the other things that I would ask is to stop passing judgment and pass a prayer. Like, stop gossiping about what you may think. So instead of making assumptions, ask for what the need is. Because I have a lot of what I would consider white saviors that think that they know all the answers. And because they are acknowledging their privilege, you know, want to do something, you know, and I think that they think that they have the answers because they're professionals. Whereas we need to sit down and have actual conversations and engage with one another. That's how we really find solutions to problems. The other ask that I would have is to be willing to help. Yeah. In whatever capacity that is, whatever that looks like. Help is not always something that's monetary or concrete or something that's tangible. Help comes in other forms. So whatever that looks like I'm saying, just be willing to use your privilege and to be able to help someone that is in need, and especially those who are at a disadvantage.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And Janelle?
And ladies, y'all really put it out there, and I agree with every single one. We need to have people come to an understanding that we don't need white saviors. We just need the resources. We need the opportunity. We need the respect. We need the dedication. So I would ask for those things. Start respecting us. We have brains. We know how to use them. Open the doors, pour out the floodgates so that we can do what we need to do in our own time, in our own ways. And when it's all said and done, do less of this, more of this, and more of this. Mm-hmm. And for those who are out there in radio land and aren't watching this, I said they need to stop talking so much, close their mouth, and open up their ears so they can really digest and get a grasp of what we as brown and black people are having to face and go through every single day, so that we can rise up and be on the same platform or higher. Build our own table if we need to.
Yeah.
Can I add one other thing?
Yes, you can.
I'm saying that women is mad, angry, because
That's a whole nother we need to get back together right now. That conversation. Right. Go ahead.
Allow Black women to be expressive in our emotions, and if we angry, we have every right to be.
Right to be angry. You're right.
So that was the other ad.
No. So we have spent an hour together, and I want to, just sort of reiterate. First of all, we are not one monolithic group, but we have some similar needs. So know that hopefully you hear that we have capacity, desire, willingness, and although we represent some Black mamas, there are other Black mamas that we know who are similar to us from a variety of different socioeconomic spectrums. Know that we want you to listen more, but also if you could transfer knowledge, skills, resources back into those, transfer power. If you really want to help, transfer power and give us opportunity. And then there's some practical things that I'm hoping those of you who are out here, you hear us talking about childcare. You hear us talking about making sure that our kids and families, where there could be strategies that you help the helpers, particularly for essential workers who are Black and brown, who might have more complex needs, come and have conversations with how we might be better supported so that we can better support those in our community. And then I love the last one, challenge all your assumptions. So when you find yourself saying all of them, or where you are aware of seeing families of color from a deficit, go back and do your homework and then realize it's your work. It has been a pleasure spending time with you all. Like I am just feeling so inspired, and hopefully other folks are inspired too, and know that the work continues. So thank you and stay well.